Mercedes' hotly anticipated upgrade package for the Miami Grand Prix has finally been revealed, and we're going to be going over the significant and substantial changes that they've made to their W15 car for this weekend's Grand Prix. Let's get right into it. The W15, as expected, has undergone massive changes for the Miami Grand Prix weekend, with changes occurring across the floor, cooling globes, front ring and front suspension. The most important and significant upgrades, which they've been clearly spending the vast majority of their time on, is that of the floor, with major changes having been made to the floor edge as well as to the volume of the floor roof, as has been stated by the team. This, in conjunction with all the other updates, they hope will increase the floor load and have a stabilization effect on the balance of the W15. And to achieve this, they started off with making quite a lot of modifications to the floor, with the floor edge detailing having been changed for Miami. More floor vanes, which have been highlighted in yellow on the post-Miami update, have been added to the new floor. The increase in the floor vanes have been added to the new floor in order to drop the pressure much more locally, and in turn this helps to increase the forward floor load on the car. One other small update to the side pod is the introduction of more cooling grooves on top of it. Now this is being done to increase the mass flow throughout the side pods, and this will of course help the cooling in Miami throughout the weekend. And of course all of these changes are to try and to stabilize the balance that the two drivers that are driving the W15 are experiencing throughout a given lap. And this is something Lewis has made quite a few remarks on in interviews over the course of the opening rounds of the season. Here is a sneak glimpse into what he feels when he's driving the car and how he describes the balance issues.
It's difficult to explain it, but we had some bouncing in Bahrain, but nowhere near as intense as here. But this is that first sector is super high speed, a lot of yaw in the car, and a lot of lateral load, and the bouncing really offsets the car quite a bit. If you imagine when the car goes up and down at the back, your balance shifts forwards and rearwards. You know, if you're doing it at 160, 170 miles an hour, correcting that each time is really, the others that are going, for example, Max is flat through 6, 7, 8, and the balance is just stable, and that's what we're working towards. But we got to fix it. It's like 3 years in a row. We've got to get on top of it.
And this essentially revolves around Mercedes and their floor and how they actually create and generate the downforce, and of course how the floor interacts with the surface of each racetrack. And I think this is where one of their major problems is, and they've just never been able to get on top of the issues that they've had from day one all the way back in 2022 when they designed their somewhat zero pod design concept. Now, this next point that I'm going to talk about isn't necessarily something that's been upgraded this weekend for Miami. That isn't necessarily true because we haven't seen this particular part of the new floor. So if it has been, it's just not been revealed yet. But in case they haven't updated it, it's something to keep an eye on because it's something I believe could be possibly updated a little bit later on in the season, and that is of course the Venturi Tunnel openings. So let's briefly talk about those right now. For 2024, all the teams have completely different Venturi Tunnel entries on their cars. However, while a group of 3 teams, which consist of Red Bull, Ferrari and McLaren, have their inner fence highlighted in the yellow cutout, Mercedes don't. And in fact, Mercedes and their W15 has an unusual distribution of fences in comparison to the rest of the grid, which sets it apart. The inner yellow highlighted and blue highlighted fences are higher on average than any other team up and down the grid. Now, of course, we don't actually know whether this area of the floor has been modified for this weekend. And if it hasn't, it's just going to be really interesting to see what happens with this area, and if of course they do decide to make an upgrade to it. But before we move any further on with the video, I'm really interested in knowing what you guys watching this currently feel is going to happen with these upgrades. Do you think they're going to bring a substantial increase in lap time for the team, and is it going to alleviate a lot of their, early season troubles? Let me know in the comments down below. And of course, if you're new and haven't subscribed, please do so if you're enjoying this content, as I have a lot more to produce later on this week. So stay tuned throughout the Miami Grand Prix weekend. Right, let's get back on with the updates for this weekend. But of course, this all begs the question now. Yes, we've heard on many an occasion with this Mercedes team throughout the ground effect era, with all three of their, cars, the W13, the W14, and now the W15, that this upgrade is going to cure this. We're now fully understanding that. And every time it's been the hope of a false dawn, the dawn of a false hope, I should say. And I am very skeptical about any sort of upgrade that the team bring to the track. I just don't have the confidence in the team when it comes to their kind of current ground effect track record. I just don't see them hitting the ground running, the upgrade package working as intended, or to the degree in which they would like it to. There always is that issue and a niggling thought in the back of my mind of their well-documented correlation issues. We know for a fact they're forever having issues with their CFD and their wind tunnel data when it comes to taking that data from the virtual world and bringing it out on track. And I'm not going to be surprised if it's the same case here with the Miami upgrade. Now, that's not to say that I don't want the upgrade to work. I certainly do. I think we need the Mercedes team to, come forward within the top 2 to 3 teams on the grid and just kind of close up. I want the kind of concertina effect that we get at the end of every set of regulations, and then stupidly F1 just decides to open up a whole new regulation change and the field spreads out dramatically again. But I suppose that's another topic for another video. And I would just love every team, Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren, Aston Martin, I want them all to have these massive upgrades and just be able to take the fight to Red Bull. Essentially, I would love a 2012 season again where we had 7 different winners in the first 7 races. That would be my wish for Formula 1. And then just from that, the natural interest and love and growth of the sport is going to occur. And this is what happens when you keep on changing a set of regulations. Anyway, that was a little bit off topic, but hey, that's my thoughts on this whole subject. Hope you've all enjoyed the video. That is the video today. Be on the lookout for a McLaren deep dive on their new update as well for this weekend. I will be having that out very shortly on the channel as well today. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I will catch you all in another Formula 1 video shortly.